the cursed child. Second only to Satoru Gojo, of course. Wielder of the Queen of Curses. Mostly just Yuta Okkotsu. In this video, I will go over Yuta and his connection to the themes of Jujutsu Kaisen. 2. Rika and misconceptions / answers. 3rd, Yuta Okkotsu, his potentials, parallels, and just generally as a person in the story. And naturally, giga spoilers for the entire story of Jujutsu Kaisen.
I never realized you were such a womanizer!
Don't be rude. Our love is pure.
Okay, so before I begin, I just want to say that some of the sub-themes I interpret could be me just seeing a bit too much into it, but I'm actually really confident in it. Starting with death, dying, and how you can have a good ending in death depending on your legacy. It's actually got nothing to do with strength. Choso and Nanami, though tragic passings, died smiling because they had someone to trust to carry on their mission, which they actually ended up doing. Whereas Toji was the strongest Zenin, but also a overconfident, miserable wretch who didn't even know the gender of his own kid. Whilst he was living under the name Fushiguro when he married, he was actually pretty happy in life, but you know, his wife died and he ended up returning to his cold, old self when he came back to Jujutsu Society, which was ultimately a big reason as to why he lost and died. You could say like pretty much the same thing about Kashimo. Kashimo was literally just in it to kill people we thought were losers. This theme of proper death or whatever has been pretty consistent throughout the entire Jujutsu Kaisen. And that brings Rika. Despite being ran over, dying, then coming back as a freak Shikigami, she still felt the same way about her special connection with Yuta. Absolutely overbearing sense, actually. Prioritizing the connection between both of them over everything else, which is what caused Yuta's isolation and has completely terrorized his life. After being freed from the generational omen that Yuta's been cursed with, she still feels the same way. Even forgiving Yuta for breaking his promise, though sort of indirectly, of staying together till death do us part. Which means that through all 3 stages of her life, she was pretty good whilst alive, then she turned into a curse to him, which she was actually happier with than being alive, and at her last moment when she's fading away, she felt an absolute resolution. She felt like complete. She happily leaves the Shikigami to Yuta. Enough of that warm-up. What's another theme I can speak of? I mean, come on. What most of this video is going to be about? The reason to fight. And what better than love? Yuta arrived at Jujutsu High to learn to control and break the curse of Rika, not knowing that it was actually because of his own guilt bound with love that was tying Rika. Shortly after he arrived, during his fight with Suguru Geto, who would want to wield the Queen of Curses for himself, the fight ends with an absolute beautiful, symbolic binding vow. Geto uses his strongest move he's been powering up since like forever, ready to win this and claim his biggest piece in his army of curses. Yuta is also preparing his own most powerful move. He chooses to use Rika one last time, vowing to give himself and his future up, which would mean he's indirectly betting their actual love as a cost for the binding vow. Gato just calls him a womanizer who fights for love instead of winning, but he is not familiar with this game. Their connection is pure. The laws of binding vows deemed the concept of love to be so powerful that it destroyed the entire Uzumaki and Gato himself. Gojo did say himself that love is probably the strongest curse or something like that. This whole thing is it's just about tragedy turned to strength, redemption. I don't think it's a coincidence we get to see Yuta himself have a good family. And even outside of that, he's always walking with his friends. Gojo represents this concept as he's about to kill the higher-ups. There's nothing that can be done about that, when asked not to bear the burden of being a monster alone. As once you become a monster, you can't really go back, so he might as well be the one tanking the burden. Yuta heavily disagrees on this. We even see this as far back as to when Yuta swears he'll kill Kenjaku so Gojo doesn't have to bear killing his best friend again. I've seen the interpretation that the door doesn't actually close behind Gojo in this panel where he goes to kill all the higher-ups. With Yuta in front, it's almost inviting him to be the next. Continuing to the planning, Yuta almost feels like he's the one saying the obvious that's everyone thinking, but not bold enough to actually say it. I don't think anyone could have really said anything against it. It's getting desperate, at least if it had to be done, you know. I'm glad it was Yuta. Even then, just look at how impatient and terrified this man is for what's to come. He fucking hates this. He did it. He defiled Gojo's dead body with Kenjaku's technique. It was a giga gamble. The fever or something. This actually proved to that Pumpus with the 400-year-old narwhal haircut that he hasn't gone soft. Back to the match, he kinda got his ass beat, I'm not gonna lie. He was getting a real hard beating trying to figure out the controls. And the prophecy of Yuta becoming the second Gojo.
Yuta Okkotsu, huh? I just don't see as much appeal in that boy as you do. I'm sorry to say this, but Yuta Okkotsu could never replace you.
The results of this were really good. They were massive. But after this, Yuta retracts from the battlefield, leaving just a corpse of Gojo on the ground. When he's all back up with his stitches, people died in trusting his plan. They even dedicate one of the last 5 chapters to just arguing over the plan. Yuta doesn't pity himself. He knows it was necessary, and it was definitely not in vain. This is the king of curses. I mean, what the fuck else do you want him to do? Have Higuruma, like, speedrun mastering swordsmanship so he can absolutely destroy and flip Sukuna with, like, some sort of sick epic rapier skills? Okay, but low-key, that would kind of be a banger idea. Anyway, you can even see him physically look a bit like a monster now afterwards at the end. Despite it all, he's walking shoulder to shoulder on the same front with his friends this time, not isolated. Is Rika okay? No. she stole the ring that she gives to Yuta from her dead mom. And she did some other weird things, but I mean, what the fuck, she's like 11 years old with both her parents dead. You can't expect logical actions from someone as that. She's still cool though with most people, like Yuta's little sister. That is until becoming a vengeful spirit, which gives us the insight. When she's a spirit, it's not the exact same. She's more like aggressive, hostile, a haywire version, expanding on what caused Yuta's isolation ultimately. Slight spoilers for JJK Mudalo, Chapter 17 in 3, 2, 1. 68 years after Jujutsu Kaisen, and she's still spiteful that harlot Maki would dare make a move on her Yuta, loathing even just her existence. So yeah, she doesn't really change. We don't really know, at least so far, how aging/maturity works for people that are vengeful spirits or already dead. So I just kinda imagine that she's still the same person as when she died. That's just what I think. Maybe there's something, body is the soul, soul is the mind, yeah. Anyway, despite this, she still helps Yuta, even when he's 6 feet under. So that's quite nice of her, even when she doesn't really want to. Misconceptions. Oof. Firstly, number 1. Yujo didn't do anything. So I'll go everything that Yujo did. Yujo started by ganking Sukuna when he was about to release one of the most malevolent of shrines. Did this by activating Infinite Void and burnt out Sukuna's domain. Then, after, in Sukuna's exhausted state, whilst Yuta was figuring out the controls of Gojo, he fired several hollow purple, depleting him. On a narrative level, it also answers the question Geto asked, if Gojo is the strongest.
Because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
Basically, is he carried by his innate infinity or six eyes, or because Gojo is literally the GOAT and only he could do it? We get an answer for this, because Yuta can't just control Gojo and do the things that Gojo could. Yuta will never be on that level, but hey, never compare yourself to that man. And of course, it proved his monsterhood as well as him not going soft to Ryu. Yeah, I already said that. Then there is some understandable confusion, just lack of awareness of what is Rika and her connection to Yuta's abilities. What even is Rika? I've seen that people are arguing if she's a roaming cursed spirit that just chooses to latch to Yuta, or a part of his innate technique. And to answer that question, we first have to ask, who fucking cares? Defer to chapter 1 of this video. The point of Yuta's character and theme is companionship. Yeah, it's not that far off to have cooperation in his combat. His domain is legit called Authentic Mutual Love. Else, to actually answer the question, it's a bit tough and I can understand the confusion, but it's ultimately a little bit like 10 Shadows, where something like Divine Dogs aren't directly the technique, but a mandatory extension that's required. Yuta's copy cannot happen without the presence of Rika the Shinigami. Shikigami, requiring full manifestation or a domain expansion before copy is able to be used, as well as Rika needing to devour some piece of someone to activate copy. So, to answer the question, yes, but also Shikigami. That's the answer in a sense.
一人は寂しいって言われて言い返せなかったんだ。誰かと関わりたい。誰かに必要とされて生きてていいって自信が欲しいんだ。
Who is he as a person? Well, he does the like eyes closed face when he's happy. I know that. He has a massive walk speed. Let's see what I can gather here else. Independency. Maki has to watch Yuta become a special grade, then down to 4th grade, and then back up to special grade before she's allowed to get out of 4th grade. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. That's not Maki's fault, by the way. That's not because she sucks. During JJK 0, he finds his purpose in training, as he wants somewhere to be, somewhere to belong, and wanting the confidence to belong somewhere. That's pretty much how he goes in JJK 0. Now he has a new purpose in the Jujutsu Kaisen main story, now to be Gojo's second. Because the future and theme of Jujutsu society is generationalism and not being isolated at the top, not being selfish to become stronger. Yuta's independence and overall just being a prodigy is also because he was blessed by one of the big 3 vengeful spirits. Except in this new Gojo Sensei era, he has guidance to wield the curse as strength. That strength is how he defeated Kenjaku, with bonds and trust. Would not possible to do that without the help of others. Especially that quickly. Think of Yuta as like a result of the new generation. I guess now is like the only real time I can mention the whole no consequences of Yujo. I don't think he's supposed to suffer or die off of something that's Gojo's writing. The whole thing with Yujo was that Gojo was essentially just a tool to Jujutsu society, and even in death he's a cog in a machine to clear out any threats, but he would never let any of his students die. I'm not gonna conclude this part in misconceptions because I can still understand not liking it, you know. That's fair enough. I'm not just gonna blindly love Yuta and say he's perfect. You know, that's just fucking delusion. He also uses this strength more literally for companionship, as for example, he uses his overpowering strength over Yuji to actually help him and protect him from the higher-ups. A guiding light, and similarly to how Yuta wanted Gojo to keep Rika in check, Yuta is now here to keep Sukuna in check for Yuji, connecting Yuji back with Choso and Megumi. Even during this, Yuta gives some advice to Yuji that Geto gave to him.
There are some types who center their training around the use of a weapon. But you don't want to become dependent on a cursed tool and then neglect your manipulation of cursed energy.
You're putting too much focus into the blade.
You shouldn't have done that. When you imbue a curse like that too abruptly, the vessel won't last. Didn't Satoru teach you to imbue curses bit by...
It's like it's all coming together. At the end of the story, he gained the courage through his strength to sympathize, maybe even understand, mainly trust, and accompany Maki for the rest of both their lives. A fellow monster like himself. Like, she cleared the fucking division for the Zenin clan, and Yuta was okay with that? Takes a lot to be okay with that, and he definitely benefited. How do I end the video? I didn't know where to put this, so I'd like to just mention that the only 2 times he lost was when he was play fighting with his later-to-be wife, and literally Ryomen Sukuna. I mean, like, that's pretty funny. I'm not gonna end the video like that. I'm gonna go ask some people. How would you describe Yuta?
Prodigy, I guess. A simple thing done right.
Bitch Boy was banned from being main character and outsigned by Yuji. Has a minor girlfriend and relies on his 4-year-old girlfriend. I don't like Yuta. Told you so? Hear me out.
That guy kills children for gambling money.
Yes, it's peak.
Multifaceted, powerful, timid.
Huh. Great taste in women.
Okay, Janus, you've helped me a lot with this video. What do you think?
Echo.